So we're going to begin with our light brown yarn. I'm going to make a slip knot. So I like to put two fingers out and wrap it around so it creates an X. I take my hook and I place it underneath the first one, turn it upside down, and use it to pull this one, and I'll twist the hook and the yarn and slowly release my fingers, and you'll have your working yarn and a tail. You'll just grab both of them and pull, and then you grab the tail again and pull until you have a nice neat loop over your hook. So now we're going to start with an adjustable ring. So you're going to hold your tail to keep the tension, yarn over, pull through to chain 1, yarn over, pull through again to chain 2, and now we're going to turn our work to the side and insert our hook into the second chain from the hook. So here's the first one, it's connected, and then here's the second one. We're going to insert our hook into this one, and then you have 2 loops. So you're going to yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through both, and you just made 1 single crochet. So you're going to go back into that chain and make 5 more single crochets for a total of 6 single crochets in round 1. So that's 2, that's 3, 4, 5, and 6. And once you've reached the end of the round, there's going to be this hole. You can just take your tail and pull, so it's a tightly closed loop. Now I typically don't use a stitch marker, but stitch markers can be helpful for beginners, so I'm going to be using one in this tutorial. Now we're going to start round 2. Now to start round 2, I know that this is the stitch, but for beginners it might be kind of hard to know where exactly. As you can see, there's this little tiny loop. So what I like to do is count backwards. So we know we made 6 single crochets, so we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then this is the 6th one. So we're going to insert a hook into this stitch. My tension's a little tight here, but remember to have both loops, so we have the back loop and the front loop on there. So you're going to yarn over and make 1 single crochet, just as we've been doing. Yarn over, pull through, and now you're going to insert your stitch marker to mark the beginning of round 2. So now the pattern for round 2 is going to be increase 6 times. So to do an increase, you're going to put the single crochet, the next single crochet, into the same stitch that you just inserted it into. So as you can see, there's this hole. It had this single crochet in it, and it has this single crochet in it. That's 1 increase. So there's 2 single crochets in 1 stitch. So you're going to do the same thing in the next stitch, another increase, so 1 single crochet, go into the same, next single crochet, we're going to insert 2, 1, 2, next one, insert 1, insert 2, 1, 2, and this is our last stitch. So see here we had the first stitch, so now we have the last stitch. We're going to add another 2, and you can always count how many stitches you have at the end of the round, because even sometimes with the stitch marker you might miss one. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and then 12, the one with the stitch marker. So now we're going to start round 3. So you remove your stitch marker, set it aside, and now you're going to insert your hook into the next one and make 1 single crochet. after every first stitch in every row, you're going to insert your stitch marker to help you keep track. So the pattern for round 3 is going to be 1 single crochet, 1 increase. So 1 single crochet we did here, meaning that we're going to do the increase in the second stitch. So remember, an increase is just adding 2 single crochets into 1 stitch. And now we have 3. So we have our single crochet, and then we have our single crochet increase. And you're just going to follow that pattern all the way around till you reach the end of the round. You're going to be adding 1 single crochet, and in the next stitch you're going to be doing a single crochet increase. So I'll meet you at the end of the round. So I reached the end of round 3 and I have 18 single crochets. So I'm going to remove the stitch marker, and now I'm going to start round 4. So for round 4, the pattern is going to be 2 single crochets, 1 single crochet increase. So I just made the first single crochet. So I'm going to insert the stitch marker, and I'm going to make 1 single crochet in the next stitch. So we have 2 single crochets in their own individual stitches, and now we're going to do an increase. So we're going to put 2 single crochets in the same stitch. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you're just going to repeat that all the way around. You're going to make 2 single crochets in their own stitches, and then you're going to make a single crochet increase, which is 2 single crochets in 1 stitch. So you're just going to repeat this pattern all the way around, and I'll meet you at the end of the round. So I've reached the end of the round, so I'm going to take my stitch marker out, and then we're going to start the next round. So for the next round, the pattern is going to be 3 single crochets and 1 increase. So here I just made my first stitch of the new round. That's single crochet 1. And we have single crochet 2. Now 3, and then 1 increase. So we're putting 2 single crochets in the same stitch. So we have our 1, 2, 3, and our increase 1, 2. And we're just going to repeat that again all the way to the end of the round. So we have 1, 2, 3, 1 increase. So I'm going to finish this round, and then I'll meet you back when I'm done. So I've reached the end of the round, so I'm going to take my stitch marker out, and I'm going to start the last round of increases. So you see how it's getting bigger? This is going to be the last round where we're going to be using increases. So the pattern for this round is going to be 4 single crochets, 1 increase. So I just made my first single crochet, make 3 more, 2, 3, 4, and now we're going to do our increase. So as you can see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then our increase of 2 single crochets. We're going to repeat this pattern until the end of the round. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 increase. So I'm going to finish this round, and I'll meet you back at the end. So I've reached the end of the round, so I'm going to take my stitch marker out, set it aside. And now for the next 3 rows, what you're going to do is add 1 single crochet in every single stitch around. You're not going to add any increases. And this is actually a good time to check your stitch count. So if you've just been doing, let's say 1, 2, 3 increase, 1, 2, 3 increase, as opposed to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, then this will be a great time for you to start counting your stitches to make sure that you have the right amount so it doesn't come out a little wonky. So at this point, you're supposed to have 36 stitches around. So I'm going to make my first stitch, and then I'm going to insert my stitch marker, and I'm just going to add 1 single crochet in every stitch around for 3 rows. So again, no increases, just add a single crochet in every stitch around, and make sure that by the end of every round you have 36 single crochets. So I'm going to finish these 3 rounds and I'll meet you back. Okay, so I'm at the end of the 3rd round, and now we can see that the shape is starting to change. We have this curved shape, it's no longer flat. So now we're going to be starting our decrease rows. So for the next round, the pattern is going to be 4 single crochets, 1 decrease. So just as we've been doing, take your stitch marker out, make 1 single crochet, put your stitch marker back in. We're going to make 3 more single crochets, 2, 3, 4. And now we're going to be doing a decrease. So to do a decrease, what you're going to do is insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over and pull through as if you're going to be doing a single crochet. But instead of yarning over and pulling through, what you're going to do is you're going to insert your hook into the very next stitch, yarn over, pull through again, and now you have 3 loops. So what you're going to do is yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. And now you have a decrease. So you're just going to be following that pattern all the way around. 4 single crochets, 1 decrease. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1 decrease. So insert, pull through, insert, pull through all 3. You have your decrease. So you're just going to be following that same pattern all the way around until you reach the end. Okay, so I've reached the end of the round. So I'm going to take my stitch marker out, set it aside, and start the next round. So for the next round, the pattern is going to be similar. We're going to be single crocheting 3 and then doing a decrease. So I made my first, put my stitch marker back in. So 1, 2, 3, and the decrease the same way. And you're going to be following that pattern all the way around. So 3 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, decrease, 1, 2, 3, decrease. And I'm going to meet you back at the end of the round. So I've reached the end of the round. I'm going to take out my stitch marker and start the next round. So for the next round, the pattern is going to be 2 single crochets, 1 decrease. So we have 1, 2, and then your decrease like we've been doing. So remember 1, 2, decrease, and then keep that pattern going for the rest of the round. 2, decrease. And as you can see, it's starting to curve inward, forming the shape of his head. So I'm going to continue this pattern all the way around, and I will meet you back at the end. So now I've reached the end, and as you can see, the shape of his head is already made. So we're going to be moving on to the body with increase rows. So you're going to take out your stitch marker, make your first single crochet of the next round, and insert your stitch marker back. And the pattern for this round is going to be 2 single crochets, 1 increase. So 1, 2, and then you're going to insert and make an increase. So we have our 1, our 2, and then our increase. And you're just going to follow that pattern all the way around till you reach the end of the row. So it's 1, 2, and your increase. So for the next round, the pattern is also going to do an increase. So you're going to take out your stitch marker, make your first single crochet, insert it back. And for this round, we're going to make 3 single crochets, 1 increase. So that's 1, we have 2, and 3, and then you're going to make your increase. I apologize for the squeaking. This is acrylic yarn that I'm using, and my tension is pretty tight right now. So I do apologize for the squeaking. Like I said in the section with the materials, this is what I used to make it, but you can use any hook, any yarn you want to make, any hook or yarn you want to use to make the project. But this is beginner friendly, and if you're working on a budget, acrylic yarn, it gets the job done. So back to the actual tutorial. 1, 2, 3, and then our increase, and you're just going to follow that same pattern until you reach the end of the round. So 2, 3, and your increase. So I'm going to finish this round and then I'll meet you back. Okay, so I've reached the end of the round and we're done with increases again. And we're going to start the next 8 rounds. So the next 8 rounds are going to be the exact same thing. There are going to be no increases and no decreases. You're just going to insert the hook into every stitch and make a single crochet. Again, this is a good point in your work to check how many stitches you have. You're supposed to have 30 around, so by the end of every round you're supposed to have 30. So you can increase and decrease accordingly. And you're just going to insert your hook and make a single crochet in every stitch around. I'm sounding a bit repetitive, but that's pretty much crochet in a nutshell. It's just there's a pattern and you follow that pattern until you're not following the pattern anymore. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm just going to make a single crochet in every single stitch around for 8 rows, the next 8 rows. So I'm going to do that and I'll meet you back. Okay, so I finished the end of the 8th round, and this is kind of what it should be looking like. So here we have the head, and here we have the body, and now we're going to be curving down so that we can start making the legs. So first you're going to start with single crocheting 9. So here we have our first one. Don't forget to include your stitch marker. So 1, 2, oh, this one's kind of loose actually. Let me redo it. The more you crochet, the more you learn about tension, about keeping your stitches uniform. So sometimes little things like that bug me. Sorry, got sidetracked. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Okay, so now you're going to chain 5. So yarn over and pull through 5 times. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then you're going to skip 5. So you're looking back here. As we see, this is where we inserted our single crochet. So you're not going to be skipping this one. You're going to start with the next full stitch. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then you're going to insert your hook into the 6th one and kind of make sure to pull this closely together so it's not like a giant hole, or giant gap I should say. And you're just going to single crochet like normal. So that's 1, and you're going to single crochet 9 more. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And just like with the other one, we're going to chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you're going to skip 5, and single crochet 1. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and as you can see, this is the first one and there's one left. So you're just going to insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through. What I wanted to show you, in case you were like, oh, what's happening now? These are where the leg holes are going to be. So here you have our big round, and then we have 2 miniature rounds. So for the next few rounds, when I say we're going to be working in rounds, we're only going to be focusing on this big hole right here, not these 2 gaps that we made with the chain spaces. So for the next round, I've already removed my stitch marker. I'm going to single crochet into the first stitch, add the stitch marker in, and the pattern is going to be 3 single crochets, 1 decrease. So I'm going to help you go around because we're going to be working into the chains. So I made 1, I'm going to make 2 more, 2, 3, and 1 decrease. And we're going to do that again. 1, 2, 3, and then as you can see, the next stitch that we have to do is a decrease, but here we have a single crochet gap and we have a chain gap. So what you're going to do is insert it into that chain gap, yarn over, pull through, and then you see these chains. It's just like the V's, except it's kind of tilted on its side. So you're just going to turn it towards you, and you have a top one and a bottom one. So you're just going to insert it into the top one, yarn over, pull through, and now you have your 3 loops to make a decrease. And you're going to do that again. So this is the chain right here where we worked into, so we're going to work into the next chain, into the top one. So remember, top one, bottom one, just insert it into the top one, yarn over, pull through, make a single crochet, 1, 2, that was into the next chain, 3, that was into the next chain, and as you can see, our next stitch to do is a decrease, but we have a single crochet gap here and a chain gap. So you're going to start it kind of backwards. Instead of starting it in the single crochet gap and ending it in the chain gap, we're starting in the chain gap and ending in the single crochet gap. And you're just going to continue that pattern like normal. So 1, 2, 3, decrease, again, 1, 2, 3, again, the decrease is starting on a single crochet, ending with a chain gap. So we're going to the top one, and we got our decrease, and now we just continue the pattern again. 1, 2, 3. I do recommend taking your time with the chains because they can be a little tight depending on how tightly you made the chain. So the looser you make them, the better, but don't make it too loose where it looks kind of odd. And then our decrease is the last one, and just like the last time, we're going to be starting with the chain and ending it into that single crochet gap to make the decrease. So that's the end of this round. You should have you should have 24 single crochets by the end of this round. If you wanted to take a break just to look, just to make sure, if the chains confused you, make sure that you have 24 single crochets. Okay, so for the next round, it's going to be a decrease round, but there will be no single crochets in between the decreases. So instead of starting the round with a single crochet as we've been doing, we're going to be starting the round with a decrease. So insert into the first chain space or first single crochet gap. Insert again into the next one, yarn over, pull all three. I'll pull through all three. My gosh, my foot is in my mouth. And you're going to insert your stitch marker to mark your first stitch. And you're just going to do that all the way around. You're just going to be doing decreases all the way around. In total, there should be 12 decreases. So you're just going to insert, insert, pull through 3, insert, insert, pull through 3, and you're just going to do that all the way till you reach the end of the round. Okay. So we're going to take this time to just pull the hook to expand the yarn so that we can start to stuff, because even though you can stuff through the leg holes, it might be a little harder to. So with a bigger, wider hole, it'd be easier. Sorry, I'm a child. With a wider opening, it'll be easier to stuff the yarn in. Sorry. So just use your normal stuffing. It doesn't have to be any specific stuffing, whatever your preference is. Just fill the doll up. Don't overstuff, but just stuff it to your liking. And I will meet you back at the end when I finish stuffing the doll. Alright, now that the doll is stuffed, we can finish the last round of the body. So it's going to be very similar to the last row, that there are just decreases. So make your decrease and insert your stitch marker. And you're just going to be decreasing all the way around until you reach the end of the round for a total of 6 decreases. So by the end of it, you should have 6 stitches. So I'm just going to decrease all the way around and I'll meet you back. So now you're going to fasten off. The way everybody does this is a little bit different. This is kind of how I do it. So I just snip off a length of yarn. It doesn't really have to be long because I'm not going to be threading it with a needle. I'm just going to be single crochet or slip stitching it. So you're just going to remove your stitch marker and you can set that aside because it's not going to be used. So you're going to insert your hook into the next available stitch and pull through and tighten. And then, so this is the stitch we put in. So now going in from the center, you're going to insert your hook and pull your yarn through. And I'm counting that as 2. You go into the next one from the outside, yarn over and pull it through. 3. From the inside, 4. From the outside, 5. And from the inside, 6. And the reason I'm counting is because we had 6, so now I know that it's been weaved through all 6, and then all you have to do is whoop, close, and now it's done. And some people like to weave this into several stitches. I'm a bit lazy, so if you want to do that, go for it, more power to you. I quite literally just take the tail, use my hook to hide it, and that is it. Oop. Usually it's a little more graceful than that, but it's fine, it's being hidden. And this is what your Mort doll should be looking like so far. It looks like a potato, and that's exactly what we want. So now we're going to work on creating the legs. So as you can see here, we have the leg holes, and that's not what we really want anymore. We want to give him some legs. So now, if you recall, there were 5 chains that were used to make this side, and this is just the 5 single crochets that were part of the body. So that would mean that we need to single crochet around this 10 times. But I find that when you do it to the exact amount of stitches that you have, that there's sometimes a gap here and a gap here. So this is the first available single crochet chain. What we're going to do is we're going to go into the one before it. So you see how it already has a single crochet worked into it. That's fine. We're going to just insert our hook, and we're going to add our yarn. So some people do this different, what I do is I make another slip knot. So just like I showed you before, you're just going to put it on your hook and tighten it. It's a little harder to do when there's a camera in the way. Okay. And you're just going to pull it through, and you're going to chain one. And in that same exact, you see this gap where we're working into. Insert your hook again, yarn over, pull through, and pull through. You just made a single crochet in this gap. And now we're going to work one single crochet in every stitch till we get to the end of this corner right here. So we have our 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry, that was 4, 5, and then in our last available, 6 here. And now what we would do is we'd start working into the chain spaces. So we see here are the chain spaces, but there would be this gap here that's already been worked into. So we're just going to, just like over here where we worked into one that was already worked into, we're going to do the same thing here. So we're just going to insert into that small gap and make a single crochet. And now at this point you should have 7 single crochets. So now we're going to be working into the chain spaces. So there should be 5 chain spaces, and you're just going to work into them as normal. So it kind of helps if you lift up just a little bit. Helps me anyways. And just insert it into the gaps. The gaps should be pretty easy to see because when we worked into the chains before, it just makes them kind of separate from each other naturally. So that's 1, 2. As you can see these, there's like a space right here and a space right there. That's created because we had already worked into it. So now we know where the next gap is. 3. As I said, sometimes lifting up helps. 4. And 5. Okay, so we have the 7 here and we have the 5 here. So we're just going to do, find the first stitch we worked into, yarn over, and we're going to slip stitch into it. This might be a tiny bit tight because it was the first one ever. And then just slip stitch into it. And as you can see, there's no gap here and there's no gap here because we added those 2 extra stitches on the side. Okay, so for the next round, what you're going to do is you're going to chain 1 and into that same space that you slip stitched into. So it might be a tiny bit tight to see, but it's this one right here. You're going to do a half double crochet. So to do a half double crochet, you're going to yarn over, insert, pull through. As I said, this one may be a bit tight, but it's okay. And then you have the 3 gaps. You're just going to yarn over and pull through all 3. So that's your first stitch. And you're going to make 5 more of these. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now you're going to make 6 single crochets. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and our last one, you can see here, 6. And you're just going to find that half double crochet that we made, the first one, yarn over and pull through, we're slip stitching. Perfect. So the next round, you're just going to chain 1, and we're going to decrease 6 times. So just decrease 1, 2, 3, 4, almost made a single crochet instead of a decrease, 5, and as you see we have 1, 2 left, so 1, 2, so we have 6. And you're just going to find the first decrease you made and slip stitch into it. And now there's this really tight hole, and what you're going to do is you're going to stuff it with stuffing. So just like before, loosen your yarn, take the tiniest amount of stuffing and stuff the leg. Remember, don't overstuff. You can always add a little bit more later. So if you grab a little bit now and you're like, oh well, that's not enough, like I just did right now, you could always grab more, because it always comes out a bit clunkier when you try to overstuff it. But you can always add more, as I said. So I think after this should be okay. Perfect. Shape it however you see fit. And now you're going to decrease again. So we're making another decrease row, so my apologies. You're chain 1. You're going to decrease 3 times. So 1. Let me orient this so you can see. 2. Once again, I apologize for the squeaking, and as you can see, it's closing up already on its own, so it might be hard to see, but this stitch and this one right here are the 2 targets. And the reason we're trying to get as closed as possible is because, oops, sorry, I've already lost it. We want to get as close as possible because we want his feet to be pointy. can be hard to see. I know where mine is. It's just not going in with this hook. My apologies. Okay, it's in now. But as you can see, it's going to be very pointy, the decrease. And then now we can fasten off. So because this is so tight, this right here, this little tiny gap would be where I would insert it. But because it's so small, it really doesn't matter that much. I'm very much into there are rules of crochet, but as long as it works philosophy. That's where I go. We didn't really close this properly, but it's not going to come out. I assure you it's not going to come out. So just like with before, I'm just going to insert my hook into the body, yarn over to just tuck the tail into the body, because I have a disdain for darning needles, and if I can avoid them at all costs, I will. I for sure will. Oops, pulled it in too tight, but that's okay. It's never going to be perfect. Crochet isn't about being perfect. It's about having fun and creating neat things. Once again, pulled it through. Just going to tuck it in, just hiding it. Okay, it's hidden now. So here we have one leg. And you see, it's pointy, it's squishy. And we're just going to repeat this whole process for this leg. So I recommend starting at this corner right here. Remember that there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 free open single crochet gaps, but you're not going to be starting there. You're going to be starting in this one that just occupied. So it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's the last free one. And then you're going to be working the 7th one into this space right here, which is already occupied. So I'm going to make the second leg, and I'll meet you back when I'm finished. Okay, so I've completed the second leg. This is what it should be looking like. As you can see, it is more identifiable that this is a Mort doll and not just a potato. And now we're going to be working on the next part of the doll.